What's up, everyone? This is Randy with Big Salinas Barbecue. On this video, I'm going to show you how I trim my briskets for catering and backyard cooks. Here we have a 13-pound choice brisket. You're going to want a sharp knife. I do recommend a boning knife. I have a 6-inch Gunter Wilhelm boning knife that I picked up at Chard 380. I'll have a link down in the description of that product, so that way if you want to go buy it, you can go and buy it. But any kind of knife will work. Just make sure it is sharp and that your brisket is cold. Here I'm cutting at a 45-degree angle to get all that hard fat off and to expose the meat. And as you can tell, it does have a little bit of good marbling in there. After that, I'm going to take off the end and just round that out. If you have any kind of meat that's sticking up, just get that cut off. You don't want any kind of sharp edges. And then next, you'll take off the silver skin. I prefer to have all that silver skin off just so that the rub will stick to the bark, even though I am going to cook it probably fat side down when I cook it. Not really sure, but I prefer either way to have all that silver skin off so that way the rub will stick to the meat. You can prop it up, just put your hand under there, and then that way you can just slowly take off that silver skin and that you're not gouging the meat. Go slow so that way you don't gouge into the meat. As you can tell, there is a big gouge in there already, but that's okay. Just be careful to go long, smooth strokes, and you'll get a really good outcome of it. I'll show you at the end. This piece over here, I'm not going to worry about it too much because I'm going to round out the edges. Next, there is a little bit right there that is sticking up, so I'm going to cut that off. And here we're going to cut about 1/4 of an inch of that fat off, or maybe a little bit more, just so that way you can see where you need to cut down into. As you can tell, this is a brisket that has a lot of fat. So we're going to turn it over. This little flap here, I like to cut it off. So again, at another 45-degree angle to cut off, just cut smooth stroke. And you can expose some of that meat. I'm saving it for sausage or to ground up for burgers or anything kind of like that. And then here, now we're just going to take it down to about 1/4 of an inch of fat. You just want to make sure you get all that hard fat off. You can feel it when it goes from hard to soft. You just want that buttery feel left on it. That's what's going to render down into your brisket and make it real juicy. I do recommend just taking off small layers at a time. Even though you can see where the fat is, just go small layers at a time because it could change at any kind of second. And I know a lot of people are going to say that's too much fat you're taking off. I prefer not to have a lot of fat on there, just so that way the more meat you have on there, the better the brisket is going to be, in my opinion. You can leave as much fat as you want on there. I just prefer to have all that good fat so that when you bite into it, it melts in your mouth. And as you can tell, I am constantly filling the brisket just to see what needs to come off and what doesn't need to come off. And here there is still more, so again, 45-degree angle. Takes off some of that right there to expose a little more of the fat. And then later we're going to cut that off and round off that edge. The more fat you take off there, the better it's going to render out. So here I'll go ahead and cut off the edge of it, same thing, about a quarter of an inch like I did on the other side. And then I'll round out that edge. And I'm going to save all this, again, for sausage or to ground up for hamburgers and stuff. Certainly you don't need to round off the edge, but as you can probably tell, that end was very, very thin. And the thinner it is, the more it's going to burn. So right here, still feeling where the fat is, and what do I need to take off? And I'll go ahead and take some of that fat off, just so that way you get all the way around that back side that it feels like butter. And then once you get all that fat off, just go ahead and square everything up. You don't want any kind of edges on there. You do want everything to be square on your edge, so that way it doesn't fall off. And just another little tip for you, if you cut against the grain now, this will help remind you at the end when you go to slice your brisket on where you need to slice it.